Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's DinaKalmeta here. And for today's show, I do have some updates I'd like to bring to you. And I'm also going to include an extended show on our Rumble channel. So we're going to hit the high points here, and we're going to get into a little bit more detail on Rumble. With that said, it's being reported that Iran wants to seek negotiations with President Trump. Iran has sent messages to both Israel and the U.S. that it wants to end the conflict and to negotiate with President Trump and could give up its nuclear enrichment program to save the Iranian regime. The Daily Caller is reporting that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC News on Monday that Israel is not interested in resuming negotiations with Iran. He shot down the peace talks amid reports that Iran was interested in renewing negotiations as the Israeli Air Force continues to target nuclear sites, military targets, and key leadership figures. In regards to the talks, the Prime Minister said, "I'm not surprised. They want to continue to have these fake talks in which they lie, they cheat, they string the U.S. along, and you know we have very solid intel on that. But of course, they want to keep on building their nuclear weapons and building their mass ballistic missile arsenal." Just the News is reporting that Trump will not sign a G7 call for de-escalation in the Iranian-Israeli conflict. The members of the G7 are in the process of drafting a joint statement as leaders in the bloc had met in Canada. Trump has no plans to sign it, citing a person familiar with the matter. In the meantime, the Gateway pundits reporting, as well as other sources, that at least 28 powerful U.S. Air Force tankers, including the KC-135R Stratotankers and the KC-46 jets, were seen crossing the Atlantic en masse Sunday night. The massive airborne refueling convoy appears to have launched from multiple air bases across the continental United States, heading towards Europe. According to the military aviation outlet The War Zone, this kind of large-scale tanker deployment is very peculiar and not tied to any routine exercises. So these type of assets would be needed if the U.S. were going to change its support of Israel's Operation Rising Lion, or if there were urgent concerns that the conflict is about to widen significantly. So they're getting prepared, you guys, in case something happens. It's also been reported that the UK has deployed the Royal Air Force fighter jets to the Middle East, and the U.S. has sent the USS Nimitz carrier strike group also to the Middle East from the South China Sea. The Nimitz was previously scheduled to replace the USS Carl Vinson strike group, which had been deployed for several months. But now it is headed to the Middle East ahead of schedule. The two strike groups will now be in the Middle East at the same time. In the meantime, Newsweek is reporting that the U.S. Embassy has been damaged. The State Department updated its travel advisory for Israel to level 4. In other words, don't go to Israel right now. Not sure who would want to get on a plane right now going over there with all the activity. The UK has asked citizens in Israel to register their presence, advises against all travel to Israel. Now, it's also been reported that Israeli officials have basically been working undercover in Iran and has infiltrated at the very highest levels. So they have got concrete intelligence of what is really happening behind closed doors. Now, it's also been reported by Bloomberg that ship signals have been jamming in the Persian Gulf as the conflict worsens. Russia has also evacuated citizens from Iran. So what can we say about what's happening in the Middle East right now between Israel and Iran? How does this new phase in the conflict align with Israel and Iran in Bible prophecy? Is this the moment of fulfillment of specific end times prophecy? Yes and no. The Bible clearly foretold that Israel would be scattered and regathered. That was fulfilled on May 14th, 1948. And you might say, well, was that when the prophetic time clock began to tick? That was not just a sign, but that was a super sign. Scripture also predicts that in the last days, a great coalition from the north, including Persia, modern-day Iran, will rise up against Israel, Ezekiel 38:39, as I mentioned in prior shows. While what we are seeing today is not the full fulfillment of that prophecy, but it is certainly a foreshadowing. But the Bible had more to say, so not only will the Jews be regathered together in their homeland, but they will be increasingly isolated. That's happening. The Bible also predicts a large nation to the north of Israel, identified in Ezekiel as Magog, that will attack her. That has not yet happened. Many scholars believe that Magog is a reference to the modern day Russia. I agree with that view. And there are others that agree with that view, but there are some that say it's Turkey, and there are some Bible scholars or theologians or pastors that say they're not sure who it is. But we can say this for certainty. We see both Israel and Iran in Bible prophecy. One of the allies of Russia will be Persia. Persia was the name of Iran. They only changed their name in 1935. So what happens next? Is this going to lead us to the Psalm 83 war or the Ezekiel 38? We don't know, but it's definitely a time to keep our eyes on Israel. According to this writer at Harbinger's Daily, he gives a quick flyover of end time events chronologically. Number one, he says probably the next event on the prophetic calendar is the rapture of the church. I believe personally, Dina, that is most certainly the next event on the prophetic calendar. Nothing else needs to happen for the rapture to happen. It is imminent. It can happen at any day, any time, any second, any hour. But after the rapture of the church, then the Antichrist emerges on the scene. The tribulation period starts tick-tocking when the covenant or the peace agreement with Israel and many others is confirmed. Then the tribulation ends with the second coming of Christ, and then the Lord establishes the millennial, the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Meanwhile, again, we look at Luke 21:28. When you begin to see these things come to pass, then look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So in the meantime, it is in the best interests of the United States of America to stand with our loyal ally, the nation Israel. God made a promise to Abraham years ago. Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. One of the reasons God has blessed the United States in several different areas is because we have stood by our friend Israel. And I really do hope and pray that President Trump will continue to do this. With that said, I don't want to leave out any other news that has occurred, so let's talk about what else is happening around the world. One of the more controversial arms of the government under the administration of former President Joe Biden will soon cease to exist. President Trump has stated that FEMA is going to be wound down per the president's orders, as described by Reuters. FEMA, which has an annual budget of about $30 billion, will start being phased out as its responsibilities get doled out to other departments. For example, the Federal Disaster AIDS Fund will be distributed directly from the White House. The president was speaking to reporters on Tuesday when he made his intentions for FEMA crystal clear. He said, we want to wean off FEMA and we want to bring it down to the state level. We're moving it back to the state so the governors can handle it. The president also claimed that the federal aid will be tightening up a bit, though he made sure to note that he thinks states will appreciate what they receive. We're going to give out less money, he said. It's going to be from the president's office. Prophecy Recon is reporting that biometric tech expands at sports venues. The report goes on to read that biometric surveillance is steadily embedding itself into daily life, with major sporting events emerging as test beds for its broader rollout. As the U.S. Open in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, the U.S. Golf Association has once again partnered with Fortress GB and Wicket to offer frictionless entry using chip reader and facial recognition systems. Marketed as a way to minimize wait times and improve fan experience, spectators who pre-enroll their facial data can bypass traditional ticket checks entirely. While the appeal of seamless entry is undeniable, it comes at the cost of privacy and subtly actually normalizing biometric tracking in spaces where anonymity was once assumed. And it's expanded beyond golf. In Los Angeles, a new Intuit Dome, home of the NBA's Clippers, has also leveraged facial recognition and behavioral data to create hyper-personalized experiences. So definitely an increase in biometric software at these events. Very interesting, you guys, because again, this is something that I believe is going to be out of control during the tribulation period. So we're seeing precursors of that right now. Here's another very interesting piece. This is coming from Reclaim the Net. British police test AI system to profile individuals using sensitive data from 80 sources. British police forces have begun acquiring AI software from a U.S. tech company that merges sensitive personal data such as race, health, political views, religious beliefs, sexuality, and union membership into a unified intelligence platform. A leaked internal memo obtained through Freedom of Information reveals plans to roll out the Nectar system beyond its pilot stage. So more surveillance, you guys. So obviously it's not just happening here in the US. The Watchers is reporting that severe hailstorms caused widespread damage in Spain, with 2.7 inches of rainfall within 15 minutes and hailstones up to 1.6 inches. Maui County has declared an emergency as a wildfire has forced evacuations in Hawaii. Increased seismic activity recorded at the Alaskan volcano. A rusting bridge has collapsed in Pune on June 14th, with 4 perishing and 18 seriously injured. A strong 8.4 solar flare has erupted from AR 4114 with a CME produced. That occurred on June 15th. In Peru, at least one person has perished with multiple landslides after a 6.1 earthquake. On Sunday, June 15th, a bright fireball exploded over Nuevo Leon in Mexico. More signs from the heavens. At least 19 fatalities have been reported in the capital city of Congo due to floods triggered by torrential rains on June 14th. Record-breaking rainfall triggered severe flash flooding in San Antonio, Texas on June 12th, leaving at least 11 people perishing and dozens injured and causing widespread infrastructure damage. Several people are missing. This is being considered a historical flash flood with a month's worth of rain in 1 hour, you guys. So those are your headlines for today. I'm sorry it was a little late today. I got a late start this morning, but with that said, I'm so glad that you guys tuned in, so thank you very much. Please do leave your comments below this video. I'd love to hear from all of you. Come and visit us on our social media sites as well as our website at www.cww7news.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. God bless and stay safe.